Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey!
Last week I promised you the results from Survivor Series War Games, and now it is time to deliver. Let's just talk about the opening matchup. It was the Women's War Games match. It was Team Balor, consisting of Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Mia Yim, and Becky Lynch, taking on the team of Team Damage Control, featuring Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, when they announced it on SmackDown, Becky Lynch was part of the, of Team Belair. I am sorry, but Dakota Kai's chances of winning just went to zero.
Drastic go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always going to be the case, right? Like, we'd tossed around who that fifth person was going to be. Personally, I thought we might leave it as a surprise for Survivor Series itself. But yeah, as soon as Becky Lynch was announced, you're like, alright, that's game. Pack it up, boys.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good match. There was a lot of nice spots. But yeah, it was basically a formality. What's Becky Lynch? And I do like that Bianca started the match for her team.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a contrast there, right? Because Bianca started the match for her team, and Bayley, sent in all of her cronies first. And yeah, it was. She knew that she could go. She didn't try and rely on her other teammates, and she went the entire 40 minutes.
Yeah, and then we got the moments we were looking for as well. Asuka and Io Sky.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun. Anything Nikki Cross did, pretty much.
There was a lot of bat poop crazy things that she was doing.
Yeah, including climbing on top of the starting cage to begin with.
Yeah.
When you're supposed to go in it. But yeah, it was just a fun match. Was it a great match? No. But it was fun.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? With War Games, it's really hard to have a great match. We talked about it a lot last week, where you're sitting around for 20 minutes waiting for everybody to come in before the match can actually begin. I think the men's match did really well with the storytelling in that time, which we'll get to. But it is really hard to pull something great out of this. And the women in this match did amazing. I agree with you. I think this was a really good match. It set up a few of our feuds going forward. It seems as though Becky Lynch is heading after Damage Control next, actually.
Yeah, we'll have to see how everything exactly plays out, but it definitely showcased the overall talent of Raw. Which I guess we'll get to later when we talk about the SmackDown Women's Championship.
Yeah. I'm looking at Raw, and I'm looking at what's happened, since Survivor Series. Obviously, we've seen the Raw after, we haven't seen the SmackDown after. And on the Raw after, Bayley, Becky, along with some injured cronies and Kai and Sky, do go off to have their brawl through the merch stand. And it does seem as though, Becky Bayley might be the way forward for that. I just don't know what we're going to do. Damage Control haven't picked up a whole lot of wins. Kai and Sky obviously won the titles twice, but did lose them between that. But not a lot of high-profile wins for Bayley since her return. And not many in her future if she's going up against Becky.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned on that part, because this whole faction sounded great on paper. But it has been pre-Dominic joining the group, Judgment Day.
Oh.
in action.
That is rough. I'm trying to skim back and going, since Bayley's return, has she actually won a whole lot of matches? It looks like there's a few, but not a whole lot.
Yeah. I feel like they did drop the ball a bit, because it felt like the whole point of this group was to get Bayley the title. And they, even in the best situations for them, no rules, they still were unable to get the job done against our seemingly superhuman champion.
Yeah, it looks like Bailey's had about 7 wins since returning, and none of them really high profile. Clash at the Castle, the 6-person tag, is probably the closest one. And that was dirty finish with Cross coming in. So yeah, it's been really rough. I just don't know where we want to go with this team. Obviously Kai and Sky still have the belts, but what's the point if we're not doing anything? As you say, I guess at Judgment Day, pre-Dominic, where everybody's just sort of existing and they're really good competitors and they make a great team or a great faction, but just something ain't there, something ain't clicking.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to continue watching. Maybe it's a plan to get to WrestleMania, but it seems like they've really dropped the ball on this group.
Well, if we're talking about Judgment Day, let's go into the next match. Almost 20 minutes, Finn Balor, AJ Styles. I'd say mano y mano, but it was close to mano y mano.
Yeah, it was a fantastic match. Phenomenal, even.
You had to.
Yeah. But it was what we expected. It was what we expected between these two, because they're two of the best in the business.
Yeah, it was, as you said, number 1, number 2. They've had a history with each other for a really long time. They've put on great matches. They have a storyline that is super intertwined. We're not going to... WWE's definitely not going to touch on a whole lot of it. They can talk about it. They can't necessarily show it. But yeah, this OC Judgment Day piece has been pretty good.
I kind of do hope this is the end of it.
You say as we go over on Raw and they have an 8-person tag match.
Yeah. Which Judgment Day won.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot of confusion, but it definitely feels like we have to get past this.
Mm-hmm.
Judgment Day has been pretty good since Dominic joined, but it has been the same thing over and over and over again. Just replacing Edge with AJ Styles.
Yeah. It's, yeah. I don't have a huge amount. I agree that it needs to come to an end. I think the Rumble would be a great time to reset the likes of AJ, Finn, etc. And hey, if this is how we get there, then this is how we get there. But with the 8-man or the 8-person tag team match on Raw, I do worry that we are going to continue it at least for a couple more weeks. It didn't scream finite match to me.
Who knows? It's another situation where it's just like, I hope it doesn't go much longer if it's going to go much longer.
Yeah. A little bit longer.
It does feel like something's going to come to head at the Rumble as maybe a final stand type thing between them. And then maybe we get them to splinter off and maybe we'll finally start the road to Dominic versus Ray.
Eventually. One day.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they even had a segment where they showed up at Ray's house and beat the crap out of him in front of his kids.
They did definitely make it obvious that there's got to be something there. Rey Mysterio ran off to the other brand, so he didn't have to deal with it. But it's still coming to a head. You can't avoid it.
Yeah, it's eventual. And I do like that, the slow building to it. And it being that whole, I don't want to do this. I don't want to fight my son thing. And that and I think it has to happen at WrestleMania. I think that's the biggest stage that it can be on. And it could potentially, if they can train Dominic a little bit better with the mic and stuff, it could be a passing of the torch.
Mm. Yeah, and sometimes it was hard to tell, I guess, how how much of the I don't want to fight my son was a storyline and how much of the I don't want to fight my son is back behind the scenes chat. But that's where the money is. That's where the money is.
What the fans actually want to see.
Yeah. You got the perfect setup for it. Execute. This next one is going to be rough. The WWE SmackDown Women's Championship, a singles match between champion Ronda Rousey with Shayna Baszler by her side, going up against Shotzi for 7 minutes and 15 seconds.
This was not a good match.
Usually we give most matches the benefit of the doubt. We'll come on the show and be like, oh, this was an alright match. We can't do that this time.
No, and honestly, I blame Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
I think Shotzi did the best she could under the circumstances, but Ronda is an attraction. I get it. There's not a company in the world that would not use her.
Yeah.
But she is very limited in the ring, and unfortunately, she requires somebody phenomenal to carry her to a good match. Because if we think back to all of Ronda's matches, how many have we said that were really, really good? Probably count them on one hand.
Yeah.
And a lot of those have to deal with, including Charlotte Flair, in some form or fashion. I think the one that we said was a fairly good match was her match with Raquel a couple months back.
True.
Honestly, this was more about, I think, the buddy-buddiness of Shayna and Ronda. Shotzi, I think, had a good showing as far as the story that they wanted to tell, but it was definitely all about Ronda and Shayna. And I think we all know that eventually that's going to fall apart. But the question will be, will that result in Shayna actually getting a singles run?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know, man. It's Ronda Rousey since coming back and everything. I don't know, there's just something missing. And if she was coming out and putting on banger after banger, then, we'd want her to keep coming back. But when the matches are this rough, it's just kind of hard to want to see her come around all the time. And when she's got the belt, that means, that was the one match that the SmackDown Women's Division got on this pay-per-view. And that was it. One of two matches that the woman got in general. The other one being the War Games match.
Which had the Raw Women's Championship tied up in it.
Yeah.
And the Tag Team Championships tied up in it.
All the other belts.
So, yeah.
There's storylines that you can have without the belts, obviously, that will introduce you into pay-per-view level feuds and have this and have that, but it's tough to sit here and support Ronda Rousey holding the title if this is the caliber of match that we're going to end up getting. And so I really hope either, she picks up her game. We've seen her put on good matches, as you say, usually with great opponents, but the chemistry just clearly wasn't here with these two. Either, it seems so like generic internet fan to say it, but like pick up your game or head out. We're seeing the likes of Logan Paul come through, who is a special attraction, brings a big fan base, but brings it every time he's in the ring. And I can't believe I just said that guy was good in the ring. Yeah. But, it's not enough to just
Pat
be a
McAfee
name.
as well.
That's true. It's not good enough to just be a name. You got to be a name, and and I think the big difference between a lot of other people that have come on before and the likes of Logan and the likes of Pat was that Logan and Pat care. And I'd put Bad Bunny into that as well for a little bit. They care. They wanted to be there. They were dedicated to their training and to making sure the match they put on was great because they didn't want to be remembered by being like, the celebrity that baffled it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the ultimate thing. I think that's the difference between Logan and Ronda. Ronda doesn't care. She's picking up a paycheck. She is the equivalent to 2004 Brock Lesnar. Oh, the only difference is Brock Lesnar actually had the ability to put on great matches without even caring.
Yeah, Brock could just sort of walk in and put on a decent one.
Unless he was in the ring with Goldberg, but that's Goldberg's limitations kind of limit that. But it is what I think it is, just a case of it is what it is, and I hope they build to the Shayna Baszler Ronda Rousey storyline, maybe through the Rumble. Maybe have Shayna actually win the dang thing, and her faking out that she's going to go after Belair or whoever the Raw champion is at that point. Probably be Belair. And then signing to challenge Ronda.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Ronda Shayna, let's go. Again, similar to Ray Dominic, that's where the money is, man. I looked at the time code and I'm like, oh, we better go into song. Because we've only got, 10 minutes left. So we're going to head into our entrance theme of the week. It is that of Sami Zayn. Absolutely no spoilers for the main event match of the pay-per-view, obviously. But, yeah, let's see, or let's hear what Sami Zayn's theme sounds like. And you're back to Wrestling Round 1, FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. We got 2 more matches left on Survivor Series to talk about. Let's talk about United States Championship. It was Seth Rollins defending in a triple threat match against Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory.
All right. This was the best match of the night. These 3 absolutely tore the house down.
Mm-hmm.
I would have enjoyed watching another 20 minutes of the match. I feel like Seth can go with anybody and go any length of time. Bobby Lashley, I think, is perfect for being the power role in a triple threat. He's a phenomenal athlete. And then Austin Theory is the young gun that just wants to prove himself. And he brought it just as well as any of the other 2 did. And then the fact that they did put the title on Austin Theory was a little surprising, but hey, it's part of the reboot of Austin Theory.
Yeah, it was, especially after, failing the Money in the Bank cash-in, there were question marks, do we have to rebuild him from the ground up? Does he just have to change his attitude a little bit? And he comes into this, showing a different side of Theory and almost younger Seth Rollins, kind of opportunistic. Younger Seth Rollins also just being younger Edge. That sort of opportunistic heel who's willing to put in the effort, have a great match, have a lot of offense, but also knows when to sneak out a win. And in this case, it netted him the US Championship, which is a pretty good one for him. Yeah.
I think it was a phenomenal chain of events at the end of the match.
Mm-hmm.
You had Rollins trying his signature move because he's never won the match with it. It's not a finisher. And then as that's happening, Lashley hits a spear, but the rotation and everything causes Theory, who was on top of Rollins for the Falcon Arrow position, to fall directly on top of him and get the pin. I mean, that's like just amazing. And I mean, they did so many things in the match that was so much fun for the match. I would absolutely have paid to see them go an hour draw, and I wouldn't have cared. These 3 are phenomenal talents. Seth Rollins is 1C because we have Drew McIntyre and we has 1B, so we gotta have 1C then, because technically he's on the same level as McIntyre, and if Roman didn't exist, he probably would be the top guy.
Yeah, it feels like we're getting a lot more talent pushing up into that S tier, into that A tier level position, right? We're not just bottom heavy, where you got like your one S tier with Roman and then a bunch of like 2 or 3 A's and then a bunch of B's. We've got a lot of S tier talent sitting at the top with a lot of A tier talent right behind them willing to have a go. And whether that's because we've only had one world championship and that's meant that people have had feuds outside of the title that have built them up, or whether that's because the mid-card titles are being taken pretty seriously. You know, with Seth Rollins holding it, we were just talking about how he's in the same echelon as Roman Reigns, and then he's holding the US title, so that's obviously going to get more prestigious and people are going to want to fight for that one. Overall, from a talent pool perspective, everything's looking pretty solid at the moment.
Yeah. And Austin Theory is developing into being the guy in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people saw the cash in as like them burying him, keeping him down, punishing him for being a Vince guy. And yet everything about the story said they were building him up. The fact he gave a logical reason why he cashed in on the US title.
Yeah.
He tried twice on the World Championship.
Didn't work out.
And he got knocked out both times. And then he also realized even if he didn't get knocked out by them, the Bloodline would have stopped him. And it would have been something for him to cash in on the guy that's considered having the greatest cash in of all time.
That's true.
And winning. So, and I think it also, in a way, it allowed him to hit reset on his character. And we're starting to get pieces of what the next character is going to be. And having him with the US title is going to give him more TV time to develop who he is. And I think this is going to be the moment we're going to look back in 10 years and say, that was the moment they made Austin Theory the guy in training.
Well, I'd love to sit here and inflate Austin Theory's ego a little bit more, but we do only have like 3 or 4 minutes left in the show, and we haven't even talked about the men's War Games match, so we're going to have to do a quick TLDR on this one and come back to it next week. But don't worry, this feud is going to continue to evolve, this Bloodline and Brutes plus McIntyre plus Owens. It's not over for a lot of the combinations there, but I'll let you get your gloat in here quickly after I mention that it is the men's War Games match with the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, Solo Sikoa, and the Usos took on the Brawling Brutes, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Butch, and Drew McIntyre, and Kevin Owens.
It was a great match. It was a pretty good match for a War Games match. I think it was, as you said earlier, it was the intertwining stories. It was the overall storytelling of the match that I think took that made it better than a normal one. And it ended with Sami Zayn achieving the win for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And seemingly being fully accepted by all members of the Bloodline, not just Roman.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a few moments here. Obviously, Jey Uso being down in the numbers advantage, and instead of Jimmy going, Sami Zayn being sent in to save him. Solo Sikoa just looking like a beast the entire way through. Sheamus reminding everyone why he's at that top tier. Banger of a match overall. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Story told in those last 5 minutes of the match. Sammy deciding between his best friend and his new family, and ultimately choosing the Bloodline, as you say, leading to the win. Hugs all around, everybody all happy, and mostly everybody all happy. Kevin Owens ain't happy.
No, but I will say this: it was a fun callback. Back to their independent days when because they used to be a tag team back then too, and Kevin Steen betrayed El Generico and gave him a low blow. So it was a fun turnaround for Sami Zayn to low blow Kevin Owens. And there were so many moments in the match, so many that was phenomenal in storytelling. Anytime that Sammy was able to save Jay from an attack or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Solo Sikoa just looking like a monster at times. It was the perfect storm. It was the right team won, basically, because the entire story has revolved around the Bloodline. And if you are going to make him a full-fledged member before the eventual heartbreak, you have Sammy win this match for him. It would be fun to see Sammy actually win the Rumble. Personally, I think I would have a dual win. I have Cody and Sammy eliminate each other, and it result in both of them winning, and having them both challenge Roman.
Sure. Why not? But again, I am going to have to cut you off. We will be talking more about this Bloodline storyline and the fallout of this match next week as we return, but we are all out of time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, B.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling R&D up, and we will catch you next week.